Today we're talking to Korey Hall. No idea where this is going to go. Korey is a dear personal friend, my business partner, the Iron Cowboy, Super Bowl champion, father of two beautiful daughters. He's a girl dad. He's Dan Hall, known as the Danimal's son. I just have no idea where this is going to go, but can't wait to catch up with Korey Hall. Okay, partner.
Let's go.
Let's go. Oh, this could be fun. I don't even know where to start, Korey. This has been.
I think we need to lay some ground rules first. Like, what's the vocabulary parameters on this?
Anything you want. There's no ratings because it's.
Oh, perfect. I was going to say half my vocabulary is going to be gone.
I'm going to start right there. So I always tell my wife, I'm like, man, I wish just one time in my life I can say the F word like Korey Hall does, because you don't say it a lot, but when you do, it's like, dang, that was perfect.
You just have to be able to fit it in there as an adjective every once in a while. It works.
I mean, I know we're really good friends and business partner. I'm gonna start there. So we started partnering 5 years ago when you came on.
Yep, it's been just over 5 years.
Started a construction company with us, and now you're up to how many employees do you have in a construction company?
I think we have 10.
10?
Yeah.
With 10 people, you do a tremendous amount of work.
Yeah, our team's amazing. Like, just you think about just looking at other companies, and whether it's subcontractors or general contractors, and you get guys like Chris and Holden and Kyle and the whole team, Tanner, Dakota, all those guys, and just how productive they are on a daily and what they can get done in an hour. It's impressive.
I think it speaks to you because you've been part of teams. We'll get into that, but you build a team, and you always talk about, hey, here's one of our guys. Mm-hmm. And I think those guys would run through a house on fire for you. And I think a lot of that is, we'll talk about that, but you've had some great mentors in sports, and I think that it sounds cliche and probably corny a little bit, but you run a business like that, but you do. It's a locker room. It's tactical. It's, what's the game plan? How are we going to approach it? And that's what it feels like with your guys. They're amazing, all of them.
Yeah, I kind of stole this from Andy Avalos and the BSU guys, but
I'm glad we're talking about Andy right away.
Well, no, I was going to say
right away.
So they always throw that OTG around, right? Or are they our type of guys?
Yeah.
And if you look at any person on our team, I feel like you see that, like, they're our type of guy. Yeah. Like, they're ready to come to work and get it done and take care of each other and be part of the team. So.
And you started, so I've never really told the story on here, but when we were doing tenant improvements in our office buildings, mm-hmm. the cost of just having general contractors do those, there's an allowance you give the tenant, and it got so high, we're like, we got to do something else. So we really, the construction company that you run was born out of, necessity, mm-hmm. but it's turned into, because of the people you bring over, and it's purely the people. These guys can do anything, and so it's really given us another lever to pull on hey, what do we want to do? How do we want to grow this thing? And it's been fun to watch in a very short period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is weird, the mindset, when I came over, and which I'm so glad that I came over, just the ceiling of opportunity has just grown tremendously, and very thankful for that. But you think about when I first got here, and then Holden and Brooke, and just as we've grown our team, and it's, at the start, it kind of grew out of necessity, like, well, we need to figure out a way to solve for this problem financially or schedule-wise. And so we operated like that for a couple of years, and now I feel like the mindset's changed. Now we want to grow, and, with a goal in mind of we want to get to a point where, we're doing the majority of our own work, and it's not just the jobs that we can't make pencil, right? It's let's go capture as much as we can. So it's been exciting to be part of the whole growth process.
Well, and before, those guys are incredible. I think one of the buildings you just finished was the power engineer building, and it was a giant tenant improvement, short schedule, huge deadline, liquidated damages if we didn't hit it.
Yeah.
And those guys just killed it.
Yeah, that's when you look around our valley and who could pull something like that off. You get like a Holden and Tanner, and being able to, if you think about it so ESI built the core and shell, and from break ground day and then working, concurrent to ESI building the core and shell and us building out 120,000 foot of TI, and in 16 months exactly, we went from, break ground to a C of O on 120,000 feet. So
well, let's talk a little bit about the Saturday I called you towards the end, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And you're like, I'm driving a forklift. I said, what? And you had your daughter with you, picking up trash, and there was a few choice words about how you were going to clean that side up and get it done.
I think that's the cool thing about our team. Like, a lot of times it'll get pretty loose on a Friday afternoon around here. It's kind of a ghost town, but there's also, we work till the work's done, and, sometimes that means 6 o'clock on a Saturday, and sometimes it means noon on a Friday. And so I think our team's really good at understanding the project and the difference between, what needs done right now and when we can, let off the gas a little bit.
Hey, that's a great transition to heritage, because I want to talk a little bit. One of the greatest, it's been really fun getting to know your family as well as I have. And I'm going to tell a story and then get to a point here. But so we start, you start teaching me how to, well, first of all, it was a tax write-off is how it started. I'm like, hey, Korey, I need to buy some cows so I can qualify for some tax things. And you're like, okay, this will be fun. And then I didn't get to meet your dad for a while because I wanted to come down to the ranch in Glens Ferry where you grew up. And you're like, you're not ready for that. You literally told me that.
I know, because you weren't ready for the Danimal yet.
You legitimately told me, like, you're not ready to come down to the branding yet.
So for everybody that doesn't know my dad, so Dan Hall, he's just been such a mentor and had such a big impact in my life, obviously my dad, but he's just one of those guys that he says exactly what he wants, and it doesn't matter if it's the governor of Idaho or some hired hand. Like you're getting the same story.
It's great.
It does not matter.
So you set him up like, hey, you're not ready for this. So then I practice, I'm ready, and like the next year you're like, yeah, you can come down. So I'm nervous to meet Dad. And I go down and I remember pulling in with my horse trailer and pulling it out and thinking, and I look over and there he is. And I walk over, and first time we kind of start talking, and he is wonderful. I mean, he is one of a kind. I mean, that's, God broke the mold when it was done, and Danimal's Danimal, but what a great guy. But there have been times, like when I'm on horseback trying to shut a gate and I'm having a little bit of trouble, and I look over and he's like leaning up against the fence just staring at me. He's not saying the words, but I know what he's thinking.
Oh, I prepped him before he came down too. I was like, listen, this guy's my boss, like if you want to say something, just don't. And but a lot of times he doesn't have to say anything. Like if you're doing something he don't like it, or you're getting a gate or whatever it is,
that look of disgust says it all.
This townie.
Okay, so so then so after the branding, you go down and your mom cooks a big spread, right?
Yep.
And I got to go to and when I'm there, they're very proud of you, right? I get a glimpse of how you grew up. I think sometimes I've done this many times where I've interacted with someone and I've thought, oh, they must have got lucky, or they must have figured something out, or I really think like I've thought that about and then when you get to know somebody that's been really, really successful, you're like, there was no luck here. This was grinding it out. And when you think about a kid from Glens Ferry, right? Glens Ferry, Idaho, and I got to go in. I'm going to tell the story. I get to go in your bed. Your mom takes me to your bedroom where you grew up, right?
Yeah,
it's like the Korey Hall shrine, right? But it's got the same wallpaper for when you were a kid in there, and it's got your jerseys and your thing. And you can kind of just in your mind's eye see you growing up in Glens Ferry. It's pretty emotional to see. Hey, that kid grew up here and wanted to go to Boise State, and then you go on to the Packers and you win a Super Bowl, and man, this is like legend stuff.
I'll touch on that in a second, but I got to tell this story. So the other night, we're gonna watch a video with my girls, and they're getting kind of old enough now where we can watch some videos that are kind of probably pushing the envelope on age limit, and so me and Jen decided we're going to watch Ace Ventura, right? And I haven't told anybody this, so I'm just going to tell the whole country right now. So we're watching singing the part where he walks into Ray Finkel's bedroom, right? It's like all the die dance. I was like, oh my gosh, that's my mom's house right there, my bedroom. It's a more positive version, but I was like,
hey, Matthew, man, pull up the Ace Ventura scene, bedroom scene. We're gonna pull it. It might take you a minute. You might not be able to find it, but
anyways,
that's what it is.
on a more positive.
So no, it's not positive. It's true. Tell me what it was, because I mean, now that I've been around the Danimal and around your mom, I mean, I think you, and I've heard about, I mean, you were taught to work.
Yeah.
Moving pipe, you and your sisters, and the work ethic that was driven into you at a young age that then translated to athletics and becoming who you became. I mean, it's real.
Yeah, for sure. When I kind of reaching a point in my life where I look back on a lot of this stuff, and as I was thinking about our conversation that we're having today, some of the things I wanted to talk about, and that's one thing when you look back on my childhood and growing up in Glenns Ferry and being around those people down there, it just it's kind of cut me off. Like you didn't know any different, right? It wasn't like, oh, they taught you how to work. It's like, no, you're just living. And when you look back on it, it's like, man, what a work ethic that I developed, and all this stuff from my parents, like learning how to be tough, and my mom compassionate, and just all the different things that the foundational things that kind of make people who they are, and just how fortunate I was to grow up where I did and be around the people that I was around, and just all the different mentors and peers, and throughout from the time that I left Glenns Ferry when I was 18, just very fortunate to have that upbringing.
It's a cool community.
Yeah,
it's still like
a great little town.
It's a great town, and when you drive through town, if you see the high school on the right, the Pilots. Oh,
that's the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. It's all right there. Same building.
But to the left is the ranch you grew up on.
Yep.
All the way up in the thing. It's gorgeous. It's fun. I love going down there with you. Tell me a little bit about the transition from, well, I want to hit one other thing, because I don't think many people, you would spend summers on the range. Like, we call you the Iron Cowboy, but you are first and foremost a cowboy, and then all this other stuff happens. And a lot of people say that, but that's what you love, right?
Well, so I think we use that cowboy term pretty loose. There's probably some actual cowboys that are listening to this. They're like, that guy's not a cowboy. But no, ever since I was little, like, I always loved riding horses, and wanted to go move cows and rope and do all that stuff. And
hey, did you find it? Just interrupt us when you find it. Hey, let's watch this. So this is me going into Korey Hall's bedroom.
Oh, this is awesome.
That's it. Look at the mom.
What is it? He went to Crazy Town and Finkel's the mayor.
This is some funny stuff. Well, I hope Karen's not mad.
Oh, no, she's going to love it.
She's going to love it. Okay, good. Thanks, Matthew.
But so, yeah, always just love riding horses and doing all that stuff. And then one of my really good friends growing up was Mark Black, and then his family, so they ran a bunch of cows, and just like out on the Owyhee Desert, and had a place off Cold Springs Creek right at kind of in the Hammett area. And so I was like, a lot of weekends, I would just go out with them and learned a lot about just horses and cattle and riding and being a man. And so Mark's dad, Jay Black, we used to call him Iron Nuts, like off the John Wayne movie. he was a tough dude. He was always getting after us.
But you would spend months out in the.
Yep.
I mean,
well, we would he'd go out there and just like, so you're out in the middle of nowhere. They got like this trailer house and big set of corrals, and it's about 50 miles from anywhere. And you drive out there, and he'd just kind of leave us. There'd be 8 or 10 horses, and he's like, yeah, I need all those cows. Move from this pasture over to this pasture. And by pasture, it's a section first off, and you could ride for like 2 days and not see a fence. But so we just kind of mess around out there, and we're just like, I think, gosh, we were in like 6th grade, and then Mark's younger brother Scott, he was a couple years younger than us at that time, and so the three of us just sitting out there, and we'd make sagebrush burgers and all this stuff. And then I'll be back to pick you up on Sunday. I'm like, okay, hopefully we don't get hurt or anything like that.
But you love it,
Yeah. Oh, it was awesome.
right?
Yeah.
Now we have a few guys in our office that golf a lot, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit. Right? Ryan and Mark and Holt. But last week we didn't know we were branding. I was selling some cows, and you came over in your work clothes, and then we ended up being there for 6 hours.
Yeah.
And by the way, things didn't go awesome for a lot of that, but we're in the middle of it. I walked up to you, and I'm like, hey, how's it going? You're like, this is my Pebble Beach.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
I just, I think I'm reaching a certain point where, because when I was growing up, loved doing the whole riding horses and cowboy thing, and then when I started playing football in college, and then in the NFL, just kind of really got away from it. And as I'm getting older and kind of identifying there's things that I have to do, and life gets busy with kids and sports and all that kind of stuff, and work, and it's just one of the things that I've kind of gotten back into that I enjoy, and
well, it's a family thing too, right?
Yeah, and that's another thing.
Just because I think you learned from Dan, but go back to a couple years ago when we were going down to gather cows in Glens Ferry, and I brought 2 of my horses down, and how old was Joss at the time? Probably.
She was probably 10, maybe 9 or 10.
So we're getting ready to go gather cows, and I'm like, we're ready to go, and you're like, hey, go hop on that horse.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, do you need any help? She's like, no, I'm gonna be okay. And she jumped on the horse, and she had your dad's old cowboy hat on. So this is actually a great story. I think I've said it to you, but so she's on the horse, and I looked at her, and I'm like, hey, Joss, I'm kind of scared to do this. Are you nervous? She's like, nah, I'm not nervous. And so she's riding with me, and I said, hey, what happens when we get out here? And she's like, just remember this, smooth
is fast.
Smooth is fast. And I said, what? And she's like, when you're on horseback, smooth is fast. I'm like, who told you that? She's like, it's what my dad always tells me.
Yep.
Smooth is fast. And I'm like sitting there on that horse. I'm thinking, okay.
Yep.
I'm learning from this 9-year-old cowgirl down in Glens Ferry of how to do this thing.
No, she's actually pretty good on a horse. It's fun to be able to go and ride.
Handy on a horse is what you normally say. Pretty handy.
Pretty handy. Yeah.
No, but you and Jen and your daughters, I mean, you still go down Glens Ferry a lot. It's still part of they're being brought up with this heritage thing too. It's really cool to watch. In fact, I think you're gonna do some family pictures down at Glens Ferry. You were saying that.
I'm not even touching that. It's way too soon to discuss that. We kind of
you should have wrote it on the list of things that are off topic.
So my wife's gonna listen to this at some point, but she's talking through next Sunday. We're gonna go get family pictures, and she wants to do it with the horses. And I'm like, so you understand that we keep our horses in Parma? And I was like, so we got to, and she wants just the nostalgia and everything. We're gonna do the pictures in Glens Ferry on Sunday, and it's got to be Sunday evening. I'm like, you understand that I'm gonna drive to Parma, then to Glens Ferry, and then back to Parma, and then back to our house in East Boise. That's like a 5-hour round trip. And
hey, Jen, sorry I brought this up, but when I called you yesterday and you answered, said, what's going on? And you went off. I'm like, I got to bring that up tomorrow.
Oh, no, it's not. It's coming back up anyways, because we tabled it and just kind of agreed to disagree. So, yeah.
So do you need any help moving your horses? Because I know how this is going to end.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to end me dropping horses off at like 11 at night in Parma.
Yeah, I can help anything you need.
No, but where we're going with that, like as far as, I still enjoy playing golf and stuff, but I just don't get that much time to do what I love to do. And I'm just kind of reaching a point in my life where if I do get some me time or family time, like I'd rather be outdoors, and whether it's at our cabin or riding horses or, doing that type of thing. Just that's what I enjoy.
Well, I do too. I appreciate you being patient with me, because I tell you this all the time, but it's the activity I love the most right now too. It's just fun. It's great. I mean, I'm like, it's funny. It's fun for me, and I go out there, and then I come back, and my family just dogs me, like ruthlessly. Like, hey, it's nice that the real cowboys were here. Or, hey, when are you going to try to keep up? Or the jokes never end. But
I think there's like 2 major rules when you're moving cows, and it's stay in the middle of your horse and stay out of the middle of the gate. Those are probably the 2 most important things.
Oh, there's a lot to learn. It's a different world. Hey, let's talk a little bit about, so then growing up, Glens Ferry, Boise State. You don't talk about this enough, because you just don't. In fact, I got some funny stories I won't tell. But so you've got great stories of your professional career, and I think a lot of people understand your Boise State career. But talk about going to the Packers and what that was like, and here's your kid from Glens Ferry, and you're in Green Bay, and your transition from linebacker to fullback, and I mean it's an incredible story.
Well, first, what I would say is, I think my foundation and work ethic and kind of helped me go from like high school to the next level at Boise State, but what you can say whatever you want, like there has to be a little bit of luck involved all the time. Like you just look at my experience, and so got a scholarship from Dan Hawkins coming out of Glens Ferry, and show up at Boise State, and you're just kind of a nobody, right? And so you get in a camp and just have to battle it out, and sometimes it feels like coaches don't even know you're on the team, and so it's a mental and physical battle of how can I get better, how can I get my game better. And fortunately, when I was a redshirt freshman at Boise State, Chauncey, I'm trying to think of his last name, but they had a really good Mike linebacker he was graduating that year. So, and then there was 2 other Mike linebackers that I was competing against in training camp, and ended up getting the starting position. But was very fortunate that had an opening from a veteran guy was retiring. So came in to that program, and it was a battle for the first couple of years. I remember my freshman season. Looking back on it, I wasn't like terrible at football my freshman year, but like so my position coach and D coordinator was Ron Collins at that time.
Yeah.
Right? And him and I have had this conversation. Like I still talk to him all the time. I love Ron Collins, but I remember my first year. Oh, I hated Ron Collins. Like he like helped me learn how to. Like he kind of toughened me up to like football and college and the whole experience, and made me a better player. But I remember I'd go in, after a game, so you play Saturday, and then you'd go in and watch tape on Sunday, and that was like my worst hour and a half of the week was going in and watching game tape with Ron Collins. He'd just, Korey, I don't know what the fuck, I don't know what you're doing, blah, blah. And I remember specifically, and this is later in my career, I think it was like a junior maybe, and we're playing at Wyoming in Laramie, and they got this big tight end, and he runs like this, his little movies. He runs like a 10-yard stick route, and he either goes in or out, right? And they got us backed up on the goal line. He runs this 10-yard route, and I'm all over this. Like I know what he's running, and they throw the ball across the middle, and I dive and like deflect this ball up in the air, and it goes like way up in the air, and Gerald Alexander's standing right there, like second round safety, and the guy just catches the ball for a touchdown, and I'm laying on the ground. I'm like, oh my god! So,
Sunday,
and at this time they got the phones. Korey, go to the phone when you get to the sideline. Here we go. And I call. He's like, I don't know what to say, Korey. Our pass coverage is the screaming shits. Like, all right. But I still talk to Ron Collins all the time. Like, but he was definitely had a big impact on my career and what I know about football and playing defense. And
talk before you leave Boise State. Chris Peterson is a huge mentor to you, and like when you were inducted to the Hall of Fame, he did your intro speech. What did he teach you? So Chris Peterson came to Glens Ferry and was the actual coach that recruited me before I got a scholarship, and then he was the offensive coordinator my first 3 years, and then obviously took over my senior year as the head coach and went to the Fiesta Bowl and that. But not just the Fiesta Bowl.
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
We'll get to that. But Chris Peterson is one of those dudes. Like there's a lot of coaches that say, hey, here's how you need to practice. Here's how you need to eat. Here's how you need to live. Here, he's one of those dudes that says it and he actually walks the walk, right? Like that's how he lives his life. Like he should run for president. Like they're not going to find anything on Chris Peterson that he did wrong. Like he's one of those guys that
he should run for president.
He's just salt of the earth. I'm not touching the politics, but but he's a great guy and just great human being, and have a lot of respect for him. And I know a couple things, and I didn't know this till later in life as I got to Green Bay, but I'll jump ahead a little bit. But when I was at Green Bay, my second year, so Mike McCarthy's the head coach, and it was the off season, and me and John Kuhn, it was like a Friday, we went through practices, and we go to this little like hole in the wall bar in Green Bay, and we're sitting there having a drink, and we're both like facing the bar, and this guy comes up and he's like, "What are you guys doing?" And we turn around, and it's Mike McCarthy, and we're like, "Oh, Big Mike, what's up?" And pretty soon he's like doing shots with us, and hopefully this podcast doesn't make it to Green Bay, but we're having a couple of drinks, and then pretty soon, everybody's starting to socialize and talk a little more and more. And so he's telling me the story that, so I didn't know this until that point. Like, Chris Peterson never said anything to me, but Mike McCarthy and Chris Peterson GA'd together at Pittsburgh University. And that's like, I think most of the reason that I got drafted, because I mean, if you think about it, it doesn't make sense that I didn't play one snap of offense through my whole college career and then ended up getting drafted as a fullback from the linebacker position. So, I think there's a lot of things that Chris Peterson, impacts that he made on my life, and some of them I didn't know about at the time, but got nothing but respect.
Well, anyone that knows that guy, it's just like he's just a legend. Yep. Everywhere he's been for who he is and how he lives his life and just how genuine he is. Talk a little bit about, I love a couple of your stories, like the first time Ray Lewis hit you going through the line, or just playing fullback in the NFL. Like you said, you didn't play in college. So how was that transition? And then you become the starter, right, through a series of events. And
well, and it was just just another situation where I was pretty lucky to come into a Green Bay program that was, as a 6th-round fullback pick that has never played fullback. There's probably only a couple places in the league that I could have went in and been able to do what I did. And so when I show up at Green Bay, we go into camp, and I'm the 3rd-string fullback, and they had a guy named that they had picked up from Denver the year before that was a starter, Brandon Myrie, and then they had a kid from USC, Ryan Padrell was the number 2, and then I was the 3rd fullback. And like half the teams in the league at this point don't even carry a fullback. And
you have 3.
So we're going through camp, and like the first week of camp, Brandon Myrie gets hurt, and then during the off season, I had copied one of the playbooks from minicamp, and like so I'd studied the whole, kind of off season, so knew the playbook pretty well. And now Ryan Padrell's running; he's with the ones, and he at one point he started taking snaps behind Brett Favre at that point, and they run a pass rotation. He goes the wrong direction, sack, whatever. And we were watching tape that afternoon, and so my position coach was Edgar Bennett at that time, and I don't even think at this point he knows my name, and he's like, "Pedro, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, what protection is it?" It's Fox, dude. No, it's not, And then I'm like thinking about what he should have done in the play, and he turns to me, he's like, 3-5. What do you do right here? And I was like, you got Mike Sam to perimeter, and he's like, "That's right. Pedro, you with the 2s, 3-5, you with the 1s." And like from that point on, like this is like a week and a half into camp, and now I'm taking snaps behind Brett Favre, and just like every time I walk on the field, I'm scared to death that I'm like, all right, you got the mic or backside safety, or and like trying to think about your route, and it just everything was just moved so fast at that point when you're trying to pick up the playbook. And
wow.
Yeah. Anyways, it all worked out, and just kind of continued to build and understand the playbook more, and understand my, technique more. And so just.
Did you pick it up pretty quick?
You kind of had to, because, you have a few week opportunity that you're either going to make the team or you're not. And then, so there was a really steep learning curve when I first got there. And then you just continued to grow and grow. And I think one of the things that really helped me was special teams, and having a good background on that. I think that because every year you're kind of on the bubble at that position, whether you like it or not. You just, they can get rid of you just because they don't owe you that much money, and they don't necessarily have to have a fullback. So I think special teams was probably maybe moved the decision in my favor a couple of those years that I was at Green Bay. You know, so very fortunate to be a part of all that, and then obviously the fourth year I was there, 2010, won the Super Bowl versus Pittsburgh, and what an amazing experience that was.
Oh, man.
It was cool. But.
Talk me through a couple of things we kind of skipped over, but tell a couple of stories. Fiesta Bowl is going to be top college football game ever. I was there as a fan. I remember I took my son, and we just had great seats, and he was young, and it's like this magical memory for me, and I'm a fan. Yeah. What was that game like, and talk a little bit about that. And then the next thing I definitely want you to talk about is you caught Aaron Rodgers' first touchdown pass.
So it's the Fiesta Bowl, kind of a few highlights. The Fiesta Bowl, obviously the last few minutes of that game, just everything that happened was unbelievable, right? And it probably more on the offensive side of the ball, just what they were able to come back from, and the way they did it was, of all time, one of the greatest finishes in a college football game. And so being part of that was definitely an experience. And at that point, the coolest thing I've been part of.
I've never asked you this, but you play in Oklahoma, right? I mean, so here you have a storied program. I remember it was down in Glendale, and I remember sitting because we were so close, and looking just at the size of those dudes and thinking, man, we're and at this point, you're it's 07, right? So you're Little Boise State. Yep. You're going up against Oklahoma. Going into those games, how did Chris prepare you, and what were you thinking about going up against this, perennial giant in football?
I think a game like that, for where Boise State was at and who Oklahoma was at that time, I mean, it was exciting for us. Like, we're going in that. We got nothing to lose. Like, I mean, we come close, and we did a good job, right? And so it was. I mean, it was still the mindset.
They had Adrian Peterson at the time as a running back.
Yep.
And they were like, I don't know what the Vegas had the odds, but you guys, it's like, that's part of it, right? And these are big dudes. Adrian Peterson, obvious future Hall of Fame running back in their backfield, and here's you guys.
I can't remember, exactly what Coach Pete, what the pregame message was, but basically, like, we're not bowing down for these guys. We're going to go take our shot, and the same thing on defense with Justin Wilcox was our D coordinator, and he just said, you get one-on-one with Adrian Peterson, don't hold back, and try to not miss. Like, go take your shot. You miss, get up. Like, we're not coming to play slow. Like, go upfield and take a shot, and if they beat us, they're not going to beat us by us sitting back. And so it was kind of that message, and it was that message at the start of the game and that message at halftime, and everybody bought into it. And I mean, obviously it turned out well.
There had to be a point with momentum, because you could feel it in the stands of, hey, we might win this thing, right? It was like almost this like.
There was a point I thought we were going to blow them out, and then we kind of
slowed down a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I still remember the play. We had a mishap. They punted to us, and we were already up like 2 scores or 2.5 scores, and one of our punt return guys hit the ball, and they ended up recovering it, and then the momentum like really started to like turn, and now it was like, hang on, like, run the clock out before this gets ugly. And but just the way that the momentum shifted, and the way the offense could turn that back around, and hats off to those guys, like, being able to change the momentum in a game like that at that time. Like, it was impressive of what they were able to do.
One other just personal, I just was sitting here laughing because the end of that game was so intense, and I was down there with a guy named Kent Nawahi. He got us seats, and I was sitting right next to him. My son was right between us, and he would not watch the plays. He wouldn't watch the plays. I'm like, you got to watch the play. And he's like, I can't. So he would sit down and wait till the play is over, and then he would stand up, and he's a big Hawaiian guy. He'd grab me by the shirt. What happened? He did that every play. Well, like, one time I'm looking around, I can't find my son, and he's down like 1 row below me on the ground, because it just was mayhem. And it was like every play, what happened? Awesome. It was those are like one, and like, again, I'm in the stands, and I can't even imagine after that game you guys pulling that off and what that must feel like.
Oh, it was just it was similar to, you know, like we'll talk
Bowl.
about the Super Bowl in a minute, but just at that point at Boise State, like that was the first BCS game, right? Like, and undefeated season, the whole thing, like it all, to look back on like what us as a team and players and coaches and program were able to do that season was really special, and to be a part of it was amazing. So.
It's great. Go back to, I want to hear these stories. So first touchdown pack. You can Google this. It's on Wikipedia. All the touchdown passes that Aaron Rodgers threw, and right at the very top of the list, Korey Hall. That's the good news. The only bad news is it only says one.
It's the only one. It's funny after that week, like, and then I was in like on a goal line package. And
hey, can you pull up the video of the touchdown pass? It's on there. We've seen it.
But it was actually a weird. So started at fullback, but then there was a couple game stretch there where John Kuhn was the fullback because we had two tight ends out. So I was actually, if you look, I started at a wing position, and I was like the third read at tight end, and like it was just kind of crazy the way it ended up working out. But
we'll try to find it if we can find it. It's great because it's a great catch.
Yeah, I was right when he threw it. I was like, "Oh boy, I cannot miss this."
Were you nervous?
To be honest with you, like in the middle of the play, no. Like I think that's the thing about, you know, when you get to that level. Yeah,
there it is. I think I rewind it because we're just seeing this.
It's probably good they don't have it.
I mean, it's a heck of a catch.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
There he is, 3-5. At home in Green Bay.
Yeah. It's funny. My mom and my sister, her sisters, were at that game.
They were.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah. You've stayed close to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. I haven't talked to him in a while, but you know, I probably talk to him 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah.
A few years back, or a couple of years back, it was a pretty cool. One night we were at our cabin, and I texted him. It's when they were when he was still at Green Bay. They were in the playoffs, and it was like a Thursday night or something. I texted him and said, "Hey, good luck. We've got a bunch of kids in this cabin rooting for you." And he said, "Thanks." And he's like, "You want to put him on FaceTime?" And I was like, "Sure." So I got everybody. I was like, "Hey, you guys want to FaceTime Aaron Rodgers?" And anyways, he went around and like literally talked to each. I had my in-laws were there with their kids or sister-in-law, brother-in-law, and but literally took time to talk to each one of the kids. And
seems like a great guy, right?
He's a great guy. You know, I think there's a lot of he seems to lately in the media a little bit kind of some out there stuff, but he's always been cool to me, and he's a good dude.
Yeah, I think he's smart. I think he's outsmarting the media. So I think a lot of this is pretty. Yeah,
I think he has his opinions, and he doesn't let people influence his opinions. So.
Talk about the Super Bowl.
So
I mean, you think about Fiesta Bowl. I mean, think about your career, Korey. It's, and I think that's what's fun to talk to you about is you got these experiences that literally, I don't know how many people on the planet have these experiences. But what was that like?
You know, I think just you get in this groove where, you know, at the start of your career, things are pretty simple, and life's pretty simple. Like you just have, you know, growing up, like, hey, go to school and, you know, come home and help dad out with the farm. And then you get to college, and it's like, you know, there's outside off the field things that drag at you, and like, oh, go to this party, or, you know, whatever it is, or have a couple trips planned or something like that. But you just have like kind of one craft that you're trying to be the best at, and so you go through college football and that, and then the pros. And as you get older, like life starts to, you know, just have more irons in the fire doing different stuff. But I think at that point, it was just my whole career had been, you know, driven toward being good at one thing. And then even when you get to the NFL, it's like not just being good at football, it's being good at running 98 shark at fullback behind center. Like it gets more specific on what your job is and what you need to be good at and when. And so for all that, you know, you just have your head down, and you're just working toward that goal. And then all of a sudden, you know, it was like you look up and confetti's dropping, and it's like you start thinking about what you've accomplished in the last 15 years being on this path. And so it's definitely a very rewarding feeling, and then to look around and the people that you're surrounded by and we're able to do it with it, and then having, you know, family and friends be able to be a part of all of it. It was, from as far as my athletic career, is definitely the highlight of my athletic career.
And I mean, go back to Glens Ferry, like we get it about the Ace Ventura thing, but you go in your bedroom, like, and your mom, and kind of, you have this dream, and it's just an incredible story. It really is, and culminating in a Super Bowl and everything you've done. I want to get to a couple of other things. We've been going quite a while here. We could probably do this thing for a couple hours. I do want to talk a little bit about, I've known a lot of people in my life, inside, outside, different industries, medicine, whatever, but I think you are for sure the hardest working guy I've ever been around, and you're about the most loyal. I mean, and you think of your team sports, even today on this podcast, listening to you talk about it, I mean, team, like being in the trenches, who's by you, who's got your back, is just part of how you've lived your life. And it's Dan Hall, right? I mean, this is Dan and Karen 101, right? I mean, that's where you live your life, is, hey, who am I in the trenches? It's how you run our business, right? I mean, you look at your team, it's your team, and you're in it with each other. So I do think, like, that's probably one of the best qualities you have, and I really admire it. And I think it bleeds down to even, like, you know, Andy Avalos. I mean, it's been hard just through us getting to know that guy, and here's a guy that chose Boise State multiple times. He was with you through all this stuff, and it's a rough transition there on how that went down. I
think that where I'm at, and at BVA, and have now been around the construction actual industry for 12 or 13 years now, and when you look back on everything I had, and I feel like I'm a personal reflection guy quite a bit, and when you look back on everything that I've done, the successes that I've had, I think it all comes down, for me, it all comes down to one thing, and it's people. Like, I think that you look early on, like being around my mom and dad, and being around good coaches and good teammates, and seeing the way other people are taking care of people that are contagious with their attitude and what they bring to a team. And I heard this on I can't remember which coach it was, but during March Madness, energy generating behavior, and I'm buying into that. Like, I think you surround yourself by good people and have the opportunity to be around good coaches, and you just think about my path, and now all the people I was around at BSU, Green Bay, kind of, and to now, like, you get a guy like even when I was at ESI, get a guy like Joe Jackson, had a big impact on my construction career, and then coming here and with you and creating the opportunity that you did for me, and then being around guys like Mark and Ryan, and just kind of a core group of great people, and then being able to have the opportunity to build a team that that is just the real deal. They're the freaking dream team of construction. Where I'm at now, like, I want to be around, like, I feel like life's too short to be around bad people, and like I want to surround myself with people that have similar goals and similar takes on life that I do, and the people that don't have that, like, just don't be around them. Like, in our industry, we're fortunate that we can work with a lot of different contractors and subcontractors, and that we want, like, if we have our group of our stable of great subcontractors, and that's why it's not everybody's going to be pretty close on the money side of things, but we want to be around people that are going to take care of each other and us, so I think that's probably my biggest thing right now.
It's a great way to skirt the Andy Avalos question.
Politics and Andy Avalos not touching it.
No, I think you've answered the question, which is it's really hard when that is your DNA, right? Your DNA is college roommates. That was your guy. And by the way, probably one of the most incredible human beings I've ever been around, as far as authenticity and so It's just been weird. It's been a weird transition, and it's nothing about like wanting to wish the best for whatever, but it's super personal when it's someone that's close.
No, absolutely, and it was difficult to, see things unfold for Andy, and I've heard all different sides of stuff, and I, it could be one of those things where I think Andy's happy where he's at now, and it could be one of those things that it was a tough change for everybody, but it might be good for everybody moving forward, and so I hope Andy is successful, and I know he will be at what his future endeavors, and I hope BSU has a great season this year, and so I think it's gonna be good.
Let's talk about BSU. I think they're gonna have a phenomenal season this season. I think it's gonna be fantastic. I think everyone's excited. I think NIL, transfer portal, the pressure on these guys right now has got to be just, I can't even imagine. Like, and if you think about Andy, he was kind of in the middle of all that when it was trying to figure it out. It was new, right? What's going to happen with NIL? What's going to happen with transfer portal? And I think there's still unanswered questions. But here's the question.
Oh, boy.
Can you pull up a Korey Hall's commercial?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, this is going to make its podcast debut. I want to know what this thing would cost in today's NIL money if no one's seen this. So this is here it is.
Hey, I'm Korey Hall. I've had a chance to be on some great championship teams.
It would probably cost $0 in today's.
So for anyone that's listening, you got to Google this. This is, what did you have to put in to get it? It's
so Wilson
Furniture, right?
Wilson Bates in Twin Falls.
Wilson Bates Furniture, Korey Hall, and
the furniture store. They actually, so we cut a deal where they came in and helped me furnish my house, and so I had to do this commercial. And in hindsight, how many times I've seen this commercial since I've been at BVA, I would have bought the furniture myself. Just so you know,
it may just be brought up randomly in some meetings. Just set the tone for the meeting.
Yeah,
it's really good. No, it's hilarious. You're looking good. Look how young you are there.
I was gonna say it's kind of depressing. I think the videography, the acting, and the fact that my body fat was probably like 18% less in the there's a lot of things that are not cool.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about the future. I think thanks for coming on today. But what are you excited about going forward?
I think obviously there's been some changes happening with our parent company and working through those. But I think whenever you get change like that, there's opportunities for growth, and I think we're at a point where we could really start to build the construction side of things and create more opportunities there. And it's always fun to because as we are able to grow, everybody on the team is also able to grow. And I think seeing when you get guys like Chris, Holden, Brooke, Dakota, and they have opportunities to now move up. I think that's probably what I'm most excited about. But
and then I think I'm going to end with the thing that matters most to you. You're a girl dad.
Yep.
And you and Jen have an incredible partnership. But what I love most about you is, even though all this other stuff matters, I watch you father those kids, and I think that's got to be what's most important.
Yeah, absolutely. You set me up right there. I thought you were talking about work and what's most important. What a guy. No, like Jen's awesome. She's an amazing mom. Just what she does at our household is amazing. And the girls, they're, from everything I hear, we're in the sweet spot right now.
You are in the sweet spot. So how old are they now? They're
so 9 and 11 right
9 and
now.
11.
But no, they're both great. It's crazy to have two girls and how polar opposite they could be. One's kind of more like me and just a little bit more rough and tumble basketball player, and the other one is totally Jen, just dancer, ballerina, and a little more sensitive. And so, but it's really fun to watch them grow up, and then all the, we're fortunate that being able to get them back to the farm, and we have a little place in Pine, and get up there with them and just be outside and do stuff. I'm excited for the next few years.
Pretty amazing to raise family in Idaho, isn't it? You
Yeah.
think about what happens every single week. I mean, I know how much you love that, but get this ability to work as hard as we do, and then go outdoors and enjoy just, I think, some of the most beautiful country in the world. Pretty unique.
Yeah, and to have the job opportunities that we have, and then in an hour and a half you could be in the mountains somewhere, and at a cabin or camping or boating, and so it definitely a great place to live.
I love you, man. Thanks for everything. Thanks for coming on. I think everyone's going to enjoy listening to more about more stories, and they'll be like Googling Ace Ventura and then the Bates. Wilson Bates. Hey, if you don't do anything else today, Google Wilson Bates, Korey Hall, and you will get a nice chuckle.
I feel like Wilson Bates should send you like a recliner or something. They're getting all the free pub.
I agree with that. Right? I'm getting old enough for a nice recliner would be lazy boy side handle. All right, man. Thanks for coming.
Okay, thank you.